harem anime is a genre that vexes me. It's a genre that seems to dehumanize the gender that is gathering around the MC, whether the harem is male or female. This is because, to make a harem series work, the MC needs multiple love interests that are all equally viable, but also not have a particular commitment to any of them. We get a will they won't they with so many different types of characters for the sole purpose of wish fulfillment. You project yourself onto the MC, pick which characters in the harem you like the most, and watch the show to enjoy the romantic scenes between the main character and those characters. The harem anime is a simple pleasure that has been enjoyed by anime and manga fans for generations, where you collect girls and boys like Pokemon cards. I guess I never really liked it. The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, or Kimi no koto ga dai 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 daisuki na 100 nin no kanojo, is exactly what it sounds like. From chapter 1, the reader is told that by the end of the series, our protagonist, Rentaro, will be in a relationship with 100 different girls. It's a ridiculous premise, and off the get-go makes most people skeptical about the type of person Rentaro is. Surely he must be some sort of lowlife who doesn't see women as people, right? I first discovered 100 Girlfriends through Twitter clips that people started posting when season 2 was airing. The Twitter For You page is like black magic. Sometimes it shows me tweets that make me so angry smoke starts coming out of my ears like fucking Looney Tunes, and sometimes it shows me clips of cute anime girls having fun. So, I was scrolling one day and happened to see a clip from season 2, episode 4, Super Soaked Maid Party. Here is the following clip. Well, let's just say I was intrigued. Not really at the premise, not really at the gags, but the art style and animation. I loved the way the characters were drawn with those huge sparkly eyes and long eyelashes. I was impressed by the animation itself, particularly the way Kurumi landed on the ground after she jumped to catch the bread. I gave the tweet showing off this clip a tentative like and moved on with my day. Soon enough, I was seeing swaths of 100 Girlfriend clips all over my Twitter. Despite my better judgment, I watched them all. I couldn't help but marvel at how pretty the anime looked. Something about the art style clicked with me in a way where I couldn't help but look at it. I don't remember how, but I must have learned of the premise of the show and remember thinking it was ridiculous. This sounds like the most slop anime ever made, I probably thought. One night, I was bored and decided to read the first chapter. I think I had an interest in watching the anime at one point, but decided that I could know if I liked it or not faster by just reading the first chapter of the manga. I knew the premise, but was somehow drawn to the series, sort of like how I'm drawn to something like true crime. I know it'll make me sick, but I want to have that horrible feeling anyway. I wanted to induce it. The first chapter starts off with Rentaro confessing his feelings for a girl on the very last day of middle school, where he immediately gets rejected. Afterwards, he's talking to his friend, and his friend remarks that he doesn't understand why Rentaro keeps getting rejected, even though he's pretty popular and well-liked. We find out that this was his 100th rejection, and he's never had a girlfriend before because of it. Rentaro decides to make his way to a nearby shrine and prays to get a girlfriend in high school. A god emerges and tells him that he will have 100 girls interested in him, and he can have his pick. It's noted that all his romantic luck was spent on this super romantic high school life, and that's why he had to suffer 100 rejections. Fast forward to the first day of high school, and we get to meet the first two girlfriends who Rentaro meets at the exact same time. Karane and Hakari both immediately fall for him, and Rentaro is made to choose between the two. He can't, so he goes back to the shrine for advice, and then gets told the haunting truth. Both Karane and Hakari are his soulmates, and Rentaro was accidentally given 100 soulmates at birth, rather than the typical one. Also, if someone meets their soulmate but doesn't have a romantic relationship with them, they will die. In other words, if he chooses between Karane and Hakari, the other one will die. Funnily enough, these stakes aren't actually very important to the series and almost never get brought up. The only person who knows about it is Rentaro, and he purposely doesn't tell any of his girlfriends because he doesn't want them to feel obligated to date him. In other words, if he told them that they would die if they didn't date him, they might feel trapped, and he doesn't want that. Rentaro puts the well-being of his girlfriends above anything else in the entire universe, and would readily sacrifice himself if it would make one of them smile. He is not the kind of protagonist to see the women in his life as replaceable or get annoyed by them. He genuinely loves them as people and wants to see them succeed no matter what. When it comes to the dying if they don't date Rentaro thing, it doesn't really seem to matter because all of the girls fall head over heels for him and agree to the polyamorous thing, like, immediately. The one who actually puts up the biggest fight is Karane in Chapter 1, but Rentaro's sincerity wins her over. So, Chapter 1 ends with Rentaro having 2 girlfriends, Karane and Hakari. From there, the series progresses by giving us some cute interactions between the couples before adding a new girlfriend to the mix. Rinse and repeat. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really sold on the series at this point. Chapter 1 was fine, and honestly better than I expected, but it was still just such a ridiculous premise, and I honestly felt kind of dirty reading it, like I was betraying my own values. Not in the moral sense, but I like to think of myself as someone with some taste. So consuming a manga that prides itself on being stupid hurt my soul a little. But despite all of that, Nozawa Sensei's artwork is what carried me through. Even if I wasn't super invested in the story or characters yet, I just loved simply looking at the artwork of the series. The way Nozawa Sensei draws is so inspiring, and I've been borrowing some of her techniques for my own art recently. I absolutely adore the way she draws eyes. They're so big and glossy, typically having a little flower bubble shape within them, but not being overly detailed and still having a sort of cartoony feel. Although Nozawa has a distinct art style, I never felt like the series suffered from same face syndrome either. There are subtle differences between all the girls that make each one unique, while still maintaining the art style that I love so much. The character designs are all top-notch too. None of them feel too crazy or too plain. All of the girls have a particular way of wearing their school uniform that matches their personalities, typically with their own unique accessories as well. I find all of the designs really charming, even if I'm not a huge fan of every single girlfriend in the series. The more I read 100 Girlfriends, the more I found myself enjoying it. Some may call this Stockholm Syndrome, some may call it my growing attachment to the characters. Whatever you want to see it as, I kept reading. Rentaro is a very charming MC, and that's mainly because he sincerely loves his girlfriends more than anything else. The love he has for them is taken to such extremes that it becomes ridiculous, but that also adds to his likability as a character. Without him, the series simply just would not work. His selfless and humble personality is what makes anything in the story even slightly believable. At a certain point, you can say, yeah, if a guy like this really existed, he could get away with having 100 girlfriends at the same time. He is genuinely charming enough for a person to think that. The series loves to fourth wall break to an extent I have never seen before. I couldn't find every single example because the series is just chock full of them, but here are a few notable ones. Chapter 53 is dedicated to a merch drop of some of the girlfriends when the series was still just a manga. The whole chapter is pretty much just promoting the merch because of course Rentaro is obsessed since they feature his girlfriends. However, since the merch production takes a while, by the time the merchandise released, he had already gotten a few more girlfriends. Thus, his logic is that he must heavily promote the merch so that it does well enough that there will someday exist items featuring all of his girlfriends. The girls help out because they want merch of Rentaro himself to be made someday. Chapter 109 takes place right after introducing an alcoholic girlfriend into the mix, so in honor of her joining the gang, they decide to have a fake drinking party, since most of the girls are under legal drinking age. However, while Rentaro is sleeping the night before the party, he's visited by an important figure in the publishing industry. The idea of a fake drinking party with non-alcoholic kids' beers that has similar effect to real alcohol is strictly forbidden. There's nothing Rentaro can do to fight this verdict, so he concocts a convoluted plan. Through various methods unrelated to ingesting substances, he is able to achieve everyone getting fake drunk so that the drinking party is possible. To finish off this Shueisha safe plan to depict a fake drinking party involving underage characters, Rentaro slaps a warning label on every panel in this chapter here on out, which says, "These characters have not consumed alcohol nor any substances with similar effects." Chapter 130 is a celebration of the TV anime being announced. However, common sense comes in and tries to break up the party, forcing Rentaro to tackle them to the ground. Basically, this series does not take itself seriously at all, and that fact combined with Rentaro being surprisingly very likable as a protagonist is why the series is able to work. On top of that, each girlfriend introduced has their own mini arc or storyline where Rentaro proves to them that he is boyfriend material. Despite the excess of characters, I find that each girlfriend is pretty memorable and I don't have difficulty remembering their names or personalities. Some of my favorite girls include Karane, Shizuka, Kurumi, Natty, Momoha, Matsuri, Meru, and my absolute favorite ever, Akko. Akko is a fan favorite of the series, and it's not hard to see why. Although she has yet to appear in the anime, Akko has a strong fan base, and I often see her brought up when discussing favorite girlfriends of the series. Despite being a kogyaru, she has a very mellow and lax personality. Akko has an affinity for cute things and collects charms, stuffed animals, and anything else she thinks is cute. I definitely do not relate to this aspect of her at all. She is very low energy but still kind and sweet to others. However, she isn't able to emote well. Despite her efforts, she tends to be stuck with a single facial expression, thus people sometimes think she isn't taking things seriously. This is the cause of her once best friends abandoning her because they started to resent Akko for not being able to show her emotions clearly when they wanted her to. That's just a little snippet of Akko's arc, and if it's interesting to you, it starts at chapter 87. Despite 100 Girlfriends being mostly a gag manga with a lot of sexually charged or promiscuous moments, there are times when it's also able to lean into the romantic aspect and be really, really sweet. I don't condone a lot of the shit that happens in this series, but I also don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And again, despite my original stance on it being slop, I found myself enjoying reading this manga much more than I thought I would. I don't know if I can wholeheartedly recommend it. You have to be a certain flavor of insane like me to enjoy this manga. I haven't seen the anime, but the animation looks great, and I'll probably get to it eventually, so if you want to watch that instead, be my guest. I guess what I'm trying to say with this video is that I was wrong for judging the series before I actually tried it out for myself. Although I never publicly voiced my opinion on it being terrible, I still feel like my internal judgment of it before reading was unfair. Because in the end, I spent hours and hours of my life reading this series, and I don't think it was a waste of time. I liked it. I liked the 100 girlfriends who really did. Is that. Wait, how many reallys? Really love you. And is that so wrong? Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry it's been a while since my last upload. I've been kind of having a writer's block, and this video definitely isn't my most intensive video in terms of research. But I still felt like I should make a video on this series because it it gets flack, you know, it gets a lot of flack, and it does have a really ridiculous premise, but I did find myself reading it despite the fact that it seems like a series I would hate. So I just thought it was interesting, and I kind of wanted to talk about my experience with the series and see if I could find other people who like it, like me, who maybe perhaps thought it was going to be shit before trying it out. I don't know, I just wanted to talk about this series because I did read over 200 chapters of it, and I don't read a lot of manga, so I thought it was notable enough. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for checking it out. If you're interested in this kind of content, I would subscribe, subscribe. Thank you so much for Dylan KEROPHIBIAN for editing as always, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.